Welcome to the Art of Precision on Gillette World Sport. Coming up today, Neymar Jr. relives the most important penalties of his career. We catch up with the track and field action at the Athletics World Championships. And we learn what it takes to win a windsurfing race.
Preferably, you end up at the windy spots before them.
First up this week, we turn our focus to scoring winning penalties with football forward Neymar Jr. A record-breaking transfer recently saw Brazilian football prodigy Neymar Jr. become the most expensive player in the world at 222 million euros. Having now made his move from Barcelona FC to Paris Saint-Germain and scored on his debut, the striker reflected on some of his career highlights.
I've experienced two moments in my professional life, two penalties which I think were the most important in my career so far. One was during the Champions League playing against Paris, because at that point I had to score in order for our team to have any chance of qualifying, and it was in the last minute of the game. I remember picking up the ball and putting it down on the spot, and I heard the announcement that there was going to be 5 minutes of extra time. So I thought to myself, I have to score this goal. There are no two ways about it. So I kept myself focused. I felt very confident, very calm, and very relaxed, ready to take that penalty. And thank God I scored. The other one was in the 2016 Olympic final, and that one was different. Even the walk up to the ball was agony. I think that walk is actually harder than taking the penalty. Because when you walk up and look at the goal, it feels far away. It looks small and the goalkeeper looks big. So much goes through your head. And then when you put the ball on the spot and look at the goal, you feel more relaxed because you know you've trained for that moment. You have to be prepared.
Next, we take front row seats in London Stadium for the best of the track and field action at the IAAF World Championships.
The 16th edition of the IAAF World Championships kicked off on August the 4th for 10 days of intense competition and surprise victories. On day one, the Kenyans and Ugandans threw everything at Great Britain's Mo Farah in the 10,000 metres, but the reigning champion found himself at the front with 800 metres to go and won with his fastest time in 6 years. On day two, another reigning champion made all the headlines. Usain Bolt lined up for his last ever solo race in the 100 metres final.
Well, it's a clean start. It's a good start by Coleman. The American's flying in lane number 5. It's the American leading the Jamaican at the moment, but on the outside in lane number 8. Well, was it Gatlin in lane number 8?
Bolt ultimately took bronze behind Justin Gatlin and Christian Coleman of the USA. Day 3 shot put final saw Olympic bronze medalist Thomas Walsh of New Zealand going over 22 metres to claim the gold medal. Whilst on the same evening, Jamaican support was out for Olympic champion Omar McLeod in the 110-metre hurdles.
So it's a clean start and it's a pretty even start as well, but McLeod's going well in lane number 4. Omar McLeod going well. Dorian going well. Shubenkum on the inside. And it's going to be won by Jamaica. 13.05 seconds. Omar McLeod, the Olympic champion, becomes the world champion.
On day 5, world record holder Wade van Niekerk stormed to gold in the men's 400-metre final. But the South African couldn't quite keep up the pace to do the double in the 200 metres.
It's really tight. Richards coming. Gillette and Van Niekerk It's so close. Gillette is very, very tight. I think Gillette might well have just done it.
Another unexpected win was the 400-metre hurdles, with no one more surprised than Norway's Karsten Warholm as he crossed the line first. Day 7's triple jump saw Olympic champion Christian Taylor once again taking the gold. In the decathlon, Olympic silver medalist Kevin Mayer went one better this time, earning gold after a consistent performance over 2 days. Meanwhile, no one could match German Johannes Vetter's first javelin throw, 89.89 metres, earning him an emotional World Championship title. The 5,000 metres final on day 9 saw strong home support behind Mo Farah in his last track race, but he had to settle for silver behind Ethiopia's Mukhtar Idris. The last event of the evening was to be Usain Bolt's final track race as the Jamaican lined up with his teammates in the 4x100 metre relay final. But it was the British quartet who got ahead straight out of the blocks and kept hold of their narrow lead for the first half of the race.
It's a brilliant bend by Great Britain. The Jamaicans have some work to do, so too the Americans. Britain, Jamaica and the United States. And look at this from Mitchell Blake. It's Great Britain. Great Britain have taken the gold medal.
The joy in the stadium at the second goal for Great Britain overshadowed a sad finish for Usain Bolt as his final race ended in anguish due to a pulled hamstring. But the Jamaican phenomenon was back on the track 24 hours later to soak up the crowd's adoration with a farewell lap of honour to mark his retirement from the sport.
Next, we're taking in the sights as we master the RSX windsurfing class with the reigning Olympic champion.
I grew up with windsurfing around me as my dad was doing it and my 4-year-older brother. And that's how I really got into it. You know, I see my dad blazing over the water and it's like, oh, I really want to do that as well. What I love about the windsurfing is that it makes you feel really free. There is no boundaries out at sea, you know, like if you, theoretically speaking, you can sail to the other side of the world without any stops. And this feeling is very nice, and also that you are purely driven by the elements. You're not doing any mechanical things to propel yourself. The main factors that come into play when you're windsurfing are, of course, the wind. It's the main thing that drives you. And the other thing would be the water, the waves, the current. There's a lot of stuff that you really have to pay attention to make sure that it will benefit you in your performance. It is really funny to try to explain how a windsurfer works. It's almost impossible. It's really something that you need to try yourself and to understand what's going on. But it's kind of like a sailboat. You know, you have your floating device, which is your board, and then you have your propulsion system, which is your sail. And you are the live sheet of the sail. So you are able to close the sail and to open it, which propels you forward. Well, there's many disciplines in windsurfing. There's wave, freestyle, slalom, speed, and Olympic racing. And the Olympic racing looks a lot like sailboat racing, like yacht racing. The RSX is a one-design class, which means that everybody sails on the same equipment. Board, sail, mast, boom. The only difference are the athletes. As an athlete on the RSX, you need to be diverse. You need to be able to perform with light winds, strong winds. You know, it takes an all-round person to be a world champion or an Olympic champion. During the race, you really need to pay attention to your competitors. You need to know where the wind is at and where your opponents are at. And preferably, you end up at the windy spots before them. And then you're doing a good job. So when there's not a lot of breeze, we pump. That's what we call it. And this is moving the sail in such a way that it creates an airflow. The sails are shaped like an airplane wing, something like that. A little bit less technical, but that's the idea of it. And by pumping the sail, you create instability and yeah, you go forward. For you to be able to go as fast as possible, you need to have the least amount of drag. So you try to have your fin profile, which is always in the water, as clean as possible, and your board surface, or especially the bottom, very nice and tidy. And you lean on the back of the board, so there's the least amount of surface also touching the water.
Despite competing against them on the world circuit, Van Rijsselberghe and his coach recently invited other RSX athletes from around the world to join them on a unique training camp, which involved touring the picturesque canals around the Friesland province of the Netherlands.
I always love training against other countries because when you're alone, it's fun, but you know, when you have other people from different cultures, and especially with this week that we're doing right now, we're sailing through the Dutch canals. I have no doubt about it, there is no other place in the world like Friesland. And there's so many boats and there's so many buildings on the water, so much history, and it gets me really stoked to have all these guys and to show what kind of legacy with the sailing we have in Holland. I take great joy out of that, and on top of that, sailing with other countries is just a lot of fun. For me, the whole Olympics and everything that I do is about enjoying it. I love what I do, and as soon as that stops, then I will have to think really hard if I want to keep going.
Our next destination is the volleyball court, as we get exclusive access to a training session with Lube Volley.
Volleyball is a very meticulous game. It's incredibly easy to make errors because it's so technical and you have to be precise in everything you do. As a result, it requires hard work and repetition in training because you can't afford to make mistakes in matches. If you make one, the opposition get a point, which can lead to losing a set or match, so it's vital that every move is perfect. It's a game of precision, especially when it comes to attacking and receiving, making it one of the most technical sports in the world. In training, there are a lot of things that we all have to do as a group, like abdominal drills and core conditioning. But we also all do different gym work, because everyone has to hone specific attributes for their position. As a libero, I work on my legs to boost my dynamism and speed. Whereas Sokolov and Osmani Juantorena work a lot on their shoulders because they attack a lot. Micah Christensen, meanwhile, also works on his speed because he's a setter and has to quickly get into position to set the ball. Everyone has specifics they have to work on for their roles to be at their best on the court and allow the team to benefit from their unique skill sets.
Each hitter kind of has a different set that they'd like to hit. If it's a different tempo, if it's faster or higher, guys that are jumping higher, guys that are better at spiking faster balls to keep teams off balance. So we're working constantly every day to kind of refine each hitter's ball that I'm trying to get to them. And then as we get into an entire team, we work at 6-on-6. Each players are six sides on a court. So when we start to play 6-on-6 drills, that's when you get the whole team meshing and the defense and the block and the serve and reception and kind of get all that harmony going.
Working with players who have reached the pinnacle of their sport presents coaches with an interesting dilemma, balancing the time of the team so that they remain fresh and healthy for the rigors of games, whilst also developing and enhancing their skills in training sessions on the court.
Working as a coach is best described as combining a variety of core aspects of the sport. You have the technical side, the physical care aspect, the tactical aspect, and the man management. In particular, the ability to manage a group of individuals. You have to think of them not only as volleyball players, but also as men with different characteristics and personalities.
Con le loro caratteristiche diverse, noi stiamo cercando di costruire, e questo è.
Besides the technical characteristics of our players, we're trying to create a new mentality, a style based on the state of mind we have every time we step on the court, regardless of the situation. It doesn't matter if it's a big game or a battle with a rival, a regular season match, a Champions League or Italian Cup match, we want the same focus every time. I think this is essential to reach the maximum goals that we know we're able to reach, and this is also a good starting point. We work on this every day because unlike the technical training, where athletes work to improve their skills, and once they have them for life, maintaining the right mindset is something that has to be reinforced and cultivated like a habit, even if they already have it. The day you no longer have this mentality and you relax the culture of practicing the right mindset, it's gone. So for this reason, we have to prioritize it. It's a very difficult thing to train, but it's essential for success.
Ce l'hai e oggi non la usi. La mentalità è una cosa che per questo è molto faticoso.
Time now for a look at the videos making the social headlines. Conor McGregor and Floyd Mayweather showed the world's media some of the work they've been doing in training. The pair meet in the ring on the 26th of August in Las Vegas. Motorsport legend Travis Pastrana tried out an extreme sport of a different kind, completing this skydive. Swedish skier Jesper Tjada took to the slopes trying this new trick. Trail runner Kilian Jornet shared a first-person view of one of his recent runs in the French Alps. Zlatan Ibrahimovic showed he's getting close to top shape as the striker continues to work his way back from a knee injury. LA Angels players celebrated centre fielder Mike Trout's birthday in unusual fashion, showering him in baking products. European rugby champions Saracens were having fun during pre-season training in Bermuda, almost pulling off this impressive routine. Arizona Cardinals' Patrick Peterson gave a unique look at what it's like to be a cornerback in the NFL. He'll be going up against wide receivers like Odell Beckham Jr. when the season starts, who made this one-handed catch look easy. And finally, fans shared a last look at Usain Bolt on the track as the sprinter ended his career at the World Athletics Championships.
Finally this week, we're reliving the Rio Olympic Games with the Australian quadruple sculls rowing team.
The Olympics is the most important thing in elite rowing. Every 4 years, this really exciting thing happens in our world of sport, and that's what we gear everything towards.
We didn't talk too much about it. Like we knew that's where we were going and where the direction was and where all our focus was heading, but you can't race the race any earlier. Some people can in their minds and they'll over race it, and then they'll get to the actual race and it won't happen the way they want it to.
Going to Rio was the best I've ever felt going into a competition. We sat on the start line, having won every race for the international season leading into Rio, and really believing that we could win the thing.
On that start line at the Olympic Games, it's about having that faith to shut out everything else and just know so clearly what your role is. For me, it was, this is what you said you're going to do, go out and do it.
Four strokes into the start, we just hit this wall of water down the right-hand side of the boat. The boat actually does this big sort of swerve out of the start. And I remember thinking at the time, that's our Olympic start. That's it, we can't change it. That's what we've laid down. You know, even though we had a bit of a dodgy start, the boat felt right. You know, it felt good, everything was going pretty well. And Sash, about 500 metres in, said, fellas, you know, he looked around and he's like, we're in front. And then he looked right and he said, no, we're not.
We got a bit caught in the start and the Germans sort of took a lead to our right side, and they were a little bit further ahead than what they had been in our World Cup. But you sort of can't let the conditions or that position where you are in a race impact on what you're doing. As soon as you do that, you're letting the externals ride you, and that's when your mind starts wandering and you lose that concentration. Then in the middle section of our race, I do really remember us sort of really moving up, like clearing the guys on our left side, up our side, and really gain on Germany. We could start to hear more German.
But even with sort of a couple 100 metres to go, we had good momentum. You know, we had a really good pitch, and they didn't have such a good last little bit. And I was like, oh, here we go. We're gonna get them.
We knew we had to strengthen the last 500 as a finishing crew, and everyone knew that, and the Germans, I'm sure, knew that we were breathing down their necks. And I just remember Sasha just calling up, and yeah, we're moving, and we're going again. That's up, yeah, more speed, more speed. And we just needed a few more strokes.
You have a lot of time to lead up to it, to think about what you're going to do, during the race. But you don't actually spend much time thinking about, well, I don't spend much time thinking about, well, what am I going to do at the finish line? So you sort of it's just like you've just launched off into the abyss.
There was a sense of everyone was quiet, and the Germans were standing up in the boat, and we were sort of there, just a moment of silence.
Our expectations were to win gold, so we were disappointed.
I think after about 30 seconds to a minute after we all sort of collected our thoughts and realised what we'd done, it was like, well, fellas, like, she was tough out there and we gave it our all, and we can now call ourselves Olympic silver medalists.
A silver medal is extraordinary, and you only need to stand on the podium and watch the fourth place, row past and put their boat away to actually understand just how fortunate you are to be in that position at that moment.
I've watched it a few times, and you don't get any closer to the Germans. It still stays the same distance. But I think for the first Olympic Games, and the experience that I had with those guys was amazing, and to just, I want it all over again, and I want to search for that gold medal, and that's what we all aspire to, and to use these 4 years to do that.